Welcome, everybody, to the Investors Podcast 2.0 Wealth Mindset, where we dive into the minds of the successful real estate entrepreneur to uncover the tips and tricks that have allowed them to keep moving forward. I am your host, Scott Bauer, and I'm excited that you're here with us. Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Investors Podcast. I am your host, Scott Bauer, and I'm excited to have Trevor Mauch with us with Carrot.com today. You'll recognize him as a loyal listener from episode number 41 on the Investors Podcast. And, a little bit about him. He's the CEO of Carrot.com, or Investor Carrot as I know it. And I'm sure a lot of you loyal listeners not only know it, but probably use it. You were rated one of the top fastest growing companies according to Inc. magazine. Congratulations for that. That's huge. That means you're doing something good.
It's a lot of fun, man. Yeah, I think it was 2010. I've said this before, but 2010, I wrote on my life list, like the first life list I ever wrote, to someday grow an Inc. 500, 5,000 list company. And we've been in it 3 years in a row now. So three years in a row on the list, and we'll hit it again next year for sure.
That's phenomenal, man. Once again, congratulations for that. But for those of you who do not know what Carrot.com is, it's a website-based platform, but it's a way to generate online leads and can really help you catapult your business into making some money. I know as a user myself, this helped me catapult my business when I started 7 years ago, I think it was. And it's really, what you do online. You've generated over 3 million online leads in the last 5 years to help real estate agents and investors to close thousands of deals. I mean, that's a lot of leads, man. It's a lot of leads.
Dude, it's a lot of leads. And the thing that sometimes I've got to do is pull back and do some quick basic math to go, well, rough numbers, if we know, about what every seller lead closes and, the lead to close ratio for sellers and for buyers and stuff. It's definitely well into the hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions done through our system. So it's a lot of fun. The parts that I have the most fun with are actually the leadership side of things, helping these entrepreneurs grow businesses that give you more freedom and impact. That's the part I love the most, man. It's been a fun journey.
And I know that's kind of that's one of your main things is you want to show and help people to provide them with the freedom and that flexibility and that relief from the daily grind, and you want to help them get there, right? Which is super important. So why don't you give those listeners a little bit more kind of about your background, really what you're focused on now, and we'll do some catching up, man. It's been a while.
Dude, I love it. And like I said, man, I always appreciate hopping on and just chatting about entrepreneurship, just life, all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate the invite. For the full, I'm sure we did the full story in the previous episode. So check out the show notes and check out the first episode I had a chance to do with Scott. The cliff notes of it is this, y'all. So I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've never really had a job. I think there's good things and bad things there. Bad things are, I never had great examples and was able to see business people doing stuff that I'm like, oh, I want to emulate that from the inside out. So I've had to fail my way through a lot of stuff, and probably took me longer than many people would have taken to come to where I am now. But yeah, I run a company called Carrot. We're 36 full-time team members right now, about 8,000 customers. We work with most of the top real estate investors in the country in each market, and now hundreds and hundreds of real estate agents as well. So we're really going into the retail side of things. And I'll just kind of sum it up with this is I live in a small town here in Oregon, and I'm really passionate about rural. I'm really passionate about how do we use business to do good? How do we use business to impact our communities that we're in and impact the purposes and missions? And Carrot's kind of my, for lack of better terms, like it's my petri dish, right? It's like, it's the thing that I get to use as the vehicle to go out there and go, how can we create businesses that matter to you and to your workers and to the customers that use the product? How can you create businesses with missions? How do you create a business that fuels your passion and really helps to make a greater impact? So that's the stuff I love to do, man. And we work with lots of amazing people just like you.
And that's what you're doing. Absolutely. Well, one of the biggest things I think that has changed that we've seen in the marketplace is, COVID-19, this coronavirus that we're all dealing with, right? But how has that impacted what you're doing in the online space? What have you come to find out and see in that area? I mean, how have things shifted or changed?
Dude, I'll screen share here in a second our actual Google Analytics to show the trend of what's happened with visitors, with leads, the whole thing. But the quick cliff notes of it is this: as soon as the stay-at-home orders hit way back in March, we saw an immediate dip of like 25 to 30% in conversion rate on everyone's websites. So about a 25 to 30% dip in conversion rates happened immediately during the early stages of the turn down, the shutdown. And then the web visitors took about a 15 or so percent dip over the next 3 weeks as well. So your buyers, sellers, they weren't going online as much as they were before. Like they were still going online, right? A lot of people go, oh man, the buyers aren't. Yeah, the buyers and sellers are still there. 85% of them were still there. The 15% just said, well, shoot, I don't even know if I want to sell my house now. I don't know if I can sell it right now. I don't know if I want people walking through my house. In those early days, they just didn't know. And so what we did, what we suggested investors did in the early days, we said, number one, tighten up your business, right? I think it forces us all to really look at our companies and go, okay, am I running a tight ship? Because when a market's doing great, it covers your mistakes. I think there's so many investors, especially newer ones who haven't been through a full cycle. There's so many investors that just saw a great market. And so making bad offers, having rehab expenses go too much, not honing in and tightening up your systems to increase your close ratios at every step of the funnel. All those things are things that we suggest guys and gals to go out there and do right away in early COVID. It's like, tighten this down because you have extra profits in your business now that you're just letting fly out the door because it's been easy.
Right.
The next thing that we told people to do is we said, what will happen is you will have the majority of your direct competitors likely pull back marketing or cut marketing altogether in some segments in these next 2 weeks to 2 months. And a lot of it's based on fear, right? It's like anytime anything weird happens, people kind of, tuck the shell over the top of them. They go, well, it's better for me to not do anything. Let's wait it out. And so there were a ton of investors, dude, that were just in that waited out mindset. A lot of their buyers or lenders in the early days were coming in and doing the whole waited out mindset. I'm not gonna buy houses right now. And so many wholesalers were having a tough time getting rid of some of those properties in the first month or two of COVID. But let's kind of fast forward, man. We predicted and we felt that after that initial shock of the shutdown was gone, that people would. None of us could have predicted we'd be in the spot we're in today. Like I think most of us thought we'd be done with this thing in 60 days or 90 or whatever, not 6 months later. But what we predicted was people would start to get into a normal pattern again. They'd go back and do the searches again. And as soon as we can educate the market that you can still sell and you should still sell right now, or especially if you lost your job, there are options, that you can still cash out. And you can make it so it's safe for those home sellers by putting out content online and educating them, that you're going to start to see your conversion rates going back up because people are going to look at it and go, oh, I still have the problem. Like my problem to sell my house did not go away. It only grew, right? For many people, it only grew. Now I realize and know that I can actually solve the problem with a safe option with these home buyers in this market because they put out great content. So we advise people to do that. Lots of people changed their ads. They started to change their marketing spend. They started to use some of the smart ones are following our model and actually investing more into marketing, online marketing in that phase. And in those month or two, you're going to pay more cost per lead, but you're buying brand awareness and market awareness over the next 2 to 3 months. Now they're popping, their pipeline's popping now, and they're having their best months ever. So that's kind of the quick recap of it, man. That conversion rates bounce back to pre-COVID numbers pretty much. Traffic bounced back to higher than pre-COVID numbers by far. So there's more people looking to buy and sell right now. And the market's crazy right now.
Market is absolutely wild. It's absolutely wild. And for all the loyal listeners out there, right when COVID hit, I put out a podcast kind of letting people know what I think they should do during this time as well in their business, kind of like what you're talking about. And one of the things I said was, don't necessarily cut back on marketing. Don't stop marketing because the majority of people will. And if you don't, you're going to stand out from your competition. I think those that, like you said, did that are reaping the benefits of it now. But what about from your business standpoint? Because did you grow during that time? Did you add more employees during that time? Or how did your business mindset have to shift to make sure you didn't get stuck?
Dude, that's a really good question, And so the first thing that I did, and I suggest everybody do this no matter what business you're in, when you're faced with a big problem, especially one that your whole industry is faced with, is the first thing I said, what's the likely thing that my competitors are probably going to do? And will the problem that our primary clients that they have that we solve, will that go away, or will it only grow? Like, will that problem go away and they won't need us, or will it just grow and they need us more than ever? We just need to figure out how long it's going to take them to realize, and stop with that fear and emotional mindset to go, oh shoot, yes, let's invest more rather than pulling back. And so for us, man, what we did just from the company level is we started during that period. I think we did it for 2 months. We did weekly COVID updates with our team, once, sometimes twice a week. We were amazingly transparent. We showed them how much expenses we have each month. We showed them the profits, the money that's coming in. We did the math to show best case, worst case scenarios. We worked with our team to adjust any of our targets for the month and the quarter to kind of take off some of the pressure, because we didn't know what was going to happen. And we just made sure that the team really knew that we were here to support them. We knew that a lot of them were going to have to take care of their kids at home. And we just told people, we said, hey, we fully expect, especially anyone with kids, but everyone to not have the same bandwidth mentally to be able to accomplish what we did before. And make sure that you guys know that even if you can only work 30 hours a week for this month, we'll pay you for 40. You just do what you need to do. Let us know, spend time with your family, support your family, and we're going to wade through this season with you. And so that was the first thing, man, is we really just pulled into our own team and said, all right, this is our opportunity to get even more transparent, share, and show how we can support them. The cool thing is, dude, everyone rallied around it in a big way, where there were team members that didn't have daycare anymore and they had to change their hours. Other team members would chip in who didn't have the same issues. And I think it made people even more committed during that time period to help solve our clients' problems. The next thing that we did, so that was internal, right? The next thing that we did was we looked at our current hiring plan, and same thing. We said, what is our guess and what's going to happen after this? And what are our competitors likely going to do, and what problems are still existing for our clients? And will this accelerate the problems we're wanting to solve in the future that we haven't solved yet with our product? Like, will it bump it up in the timeline? And we felt that COVID would accelerate that timeline on some of the problems that our market would face, that we need to get product out sooner. And so we hired more. We took our hiring plan. I think it was to hire about 15 this year. We've already came pretty close to that already, if not hit it. And we hired more people than we ever have in the second quarter of this year, which is the COVID quarter, which was a big deal.
Which is kind of the opposite of what a lot of people were doing as well, right? And so that's,
yep,
kind of like you said, taking that contrarian perspective to it.
Dude, 100%. And the last thing, sorry to cut you off there, man. I think there's a delay on my end. The last thing that we did, and this is what we were suggesting our clients do too, is we said, y'all, let's look around the landscape and let's keep an eye on our marketing and how can we double down our marketing right now? Not how can we pull back and save some money and not think of from a scarcity mindset. It's how can we completely how can we fill up our pipeline now for the next 90 days, 180 days, things like that. And so I changed my time focus. I changed the time focus of some of our team members. I did webinars 8 weeks in a row. We drove a lot of traffic while Facebook traffic was way cheap. Like our Facebook ad costs during that 2 months in the early part of COVID went from, I'm making these numbers up, they're pretty close, but around 15 to 18 bucks a webinar opt-in to $3 an opt-in. So it got cut by 70, 80%. And so we said, let's pile more money into that while it's going to be there, because it's not going to be that way forever. And let's get on more podcasts than ever. Let's do more webinars than ever. And let's lead the industry, not in selling our product. I didn't go on there to pitch our product. It was, how can we lead the industry in showing them a trusted voice to help them wade through these changes that are happening in the market so we can help them thrive. Let's be the positive influence in the industry where a lot of other people being negative. Let's positively be that entity that people latch onto and go, okay, I'm going to follow them through this thing because they have a vision for how we can all come out the other end positively. So we grew revenue more than we ever have the past 4 months.
And, I like the fact that you weren't focused on the money. You weren't focused on the revenue necessarily while you were doing that. You were looking at the opportunity to grow the business and to provide awareness for people, as to be an example,
Mm-hmm.
to lead by example for
Yeah.
companies and other businesses to be able to follow behind you because you had a vision. I love that, right? Because that kind of goes back onto, your freedom, flexibility, finances, and impact that you're trying to achieve for other people, or show them how to achieve that, which is great. You
Mm-hmm.
know, how would you say that things have changed now? So the window that you had to really capitalize on that opportunity of cheap Facebook leads and to be in the online space for a low cost because of all the fear and anxiety that was around at that time. Do you find that
Mm-hmm.
that period is over? Do you think that we're now out of that and things are back to being more expensive? And I mean, what can you, if somebody else is in that space and maybe they missed the first window, what can they do now?
Yep.
How do you think things have changed?
Dude, 100%. So the cool thing is what we were doing throughout the whole time and what we're doing still now is exactly what we're teaching our customers, man. So it's like some people might be listening to this going, well, why are you interviewing a software company guy about how he's doing? I'm an investor. It's because exactly what we're teaching people is what we do to grow our own business, because it works for any high margin service business. And so during those early days, yeah, we wanted to say, hey, lead costs are low. Let's invest there heavily. They did go back up to normal. More people piled back in there and things like that, which is totally cool. We expect that to happen. Also, during that time, like I said, I really led out there in a big way with content, with being that trusted authority in the industry for our clients, right? And I said, if we're going to be telling our customers to do the same thing, to lead out there with more content than you ever have, to be the trusted authority for how people can work with investors in this time during COVID, and put out more content, put out better ads that educate people, do things that your competitors are not doing, then we've got to do it ourselves. And so we did that in a big way. And so now what we see happening is probably like the past 30 to 45 days, I think things got decently back to quote unquote normal as far as like business goes, and in the flipping side of things and wholesaling side and some things like that. I mean, the real estate market's hot right now, right? But I'm just talking just business as normal
Sure.
in general terms. And what I'm predicting is happening now is the energy that the smart entrepreneurs had in the early days of COVID, where they're like, we're going to drop everything. We're just going to put all this energy into better and being a better leader with content and tightening up our businesses. That's going to start to loosen. And so they did that for a period of 30, 40, 60 days, 90 days, maybe 120 days. And now we talked as a leadership team the other day and we're like, guys, we see a lot of those people who are just jamming on content and jamming on being innovative with ads and stuff and providing solutions. They kind of stopped doing it because we're out of the big, the depths of the COVID. And we kind of went back to our normal cadence too. I'm like, let's ramp it back up. Let's like get it again. Because now, now we can be the head of the next wave again, but I don't think there's gonna be as many people tackling the wave this time to really hit the market hard with content and educate their markets well. So that's one thing. I think you're going to see a lot of complacent entrepreneurs out there, and investors and agents included. That's due to, especially since the market's doing great, right? Real estate agents out there, and we work with a ton of them, and they're having some of their best months ever
Right.
because interest rates are insanely low, inventory is way down, eviction and foreclosure moratoriums are still in place
Right.
from
Right.
COVID. Unemployment benefits are still in place. There's more stuff coming out from the government, even now to help people, which is great. But what's happening is it's creating this false sense of security in the industry, I think, where everyone's the stuff I see reported on the retail side, Scott, is this. It shows all these graphs of the amazing real estate market recovery. I'm like, it wasn't a recovery, okay? People panicked for a little while. People physically couldn't go into other people's houses for a while. Okay, that lasted for 30 days. And then they got back to a more normal pace. We're getting even more normal. Interest rates went low, all this stuff. So we're just kind of taking some of that buying activity that should have happened 3-4 months ago. We're putting it over here now. And people are recognizing and realizing elections coming up. There's a lot. We've been at the tail end of this economy, or the boom of the economy for a while. And so I think a lot of people are just looking at it going, oh my gosh, we're going to sell or we're going to buy while rates are low or while prices are high. And I predict in 2021, it's going to be far different. And so we as smart entrepreneurs need to be preparing now for that and not sitting back going, I'm filling my coffers because I'm having my best months ever. Check the box off and go acknowledge it. Things went great this month, but now what do I need to be building now for 6 months from now? Next year's when people are going to be looking back going, oh, damn, I wasn't prepared.
Well, and you know what? I definitely want to go into that question because I think that's a really important place to go. You know, are the dark clouds coming? But first, I want to know how are you surrounding yourself with people to allow you to be a better leader? Because
Hmm.
there's a lot of business owners that are listening to this podcast now, and you know, you're going to have your own insightful ideas and you're going to have your own thoughts, but somewhere you're getting motivation on how to become a better leader. I know I'm always trying to work on becoming a better leader or be a better leader, and you know, you are kind of the product of who you surround yourself with. So where are you
Yeah.
going to learn this stuff? Where are you going to surround yourself with these people,
Hmm.
etc.?
Dude, the first thing, which is insanely cheap, is books and
Yep.
YouTube. I'm not gonna lie, like I don't think there's a level of entrepreneur that won't get value out of books for their whole life, right? And so, guys, I would start there. Ask people who you admire, that you want to be like, that you want to emulate that thing, and you know, however they show up in their life in that way, or their business, and just say, hey, you know, what are your favorite books this past 12 months, or what books you're reading now? So for me, you know, I really dove into leadership books a lot this past 2 years, especially, but one that I just finished up that I had a chance to actually talk with the guy in a Zoom call, in a small group coaching call that I had with my coach. His name is Matt Mochary, Mochary, and he has a book called The Great CEO Within. And it's mainly for tech companies, but it would apply to any company that I could picture. There's a couple nuances, of course, that would be, you know, more tech specific, but dude, The Great CEO Within is an amazing book. It's pretty much like a manual for a leader, for a CEO to go, oh, this is how I should run my meetings. Oh, this is how I should like coach my leaders. Oh, this is how I should do this, and this is how I should do that. It's really, really good. So books are a great thing. I can give lots of book recommendations. I'm finishing another one up now that's amazing. Number two, though, as far as coaches, I would encourage people to invest in coaching early and often.
Amen.
Dude, I was one of the guilty ones for years, thinking I was outsmarting the system by never having a coach. You know, I'm like, never been in a mastermind, a paid mastermind, never, you know, had a paid coach up until, I mean, both of those. I joined my first paid mastermind in 2012, and then it took me years after that to get into another one. And then I hired my first coach in 2016, you know, 2 years after starting Carrot. And now I always have 1 to 2 coaches at any given time. So that coach came in the office weekly for a year and a half, and he helped us go from the 8-person to about 20 people. He helped kind of really root in some good leadership principles in me and some good ways to think about it. And then I hired a new coach 2 years ago that's helping it to help us go from 20 to, you know, almost 40 team members and beyond. And I actually had my quarterly planning session with him a couple hours ago. So we hopped on today, mapped out the next quarter, set targets for the next quarter, accountability. He's actually going to come on with me sometime this next month and invest 6 hours of his time following me on a Monday with my leadership team to see where there's opportunity for me to be a better leader and better coach. So get books, y'all. Find a coach. It doesn't have to be paid, but find someone who is where you want to be and have them coach you. And masterminds, dude, masterminds, like I will always be a part of multiple masterminds from now on. I love it.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate you sharing that. Obviously, the loyal listeners that are listening to us now know that I talk about books on every episode, something that thrives me in my business and how I continue to live, and also with coaching, right? Super important. If you find somebody that's been there, done that, they're going to shorten your length of time that you're going to take to get to where they're at, right? Or even
Mm-hmm.
beyond. So that's great.
Yep.
But let's go into kind of, you know, might as well the second part of that question, which is, are the dark clouds coming, you know, from an economy standpoint? I mean, we look around and it's artificial. If you go to the general person out there, they think the real estate market's just booming, and yes, interest rates are low, and yes, there's low inventory, and there's multiple
Mm-hmm.
offers on every single house, and people are going way over asking price, et cetera, et cetera. Real estate market's booming. Why would it ever end, right? Sounds like
Yep.
2006. um, but what about the things that people aren't talking about? that's not
Yeah.
published in the newspaper? What do you see in there?
Dude, so I was asking that question myself a few weeks ago, and I'm like, I want to get the smartest financial and economic minds on the Carrot Cast to close out the year. And so we're currently researching who are those people, like not people that anybody in this podcast would normally listen to. Like the economist that has won these awards and he's mapping out, like, what I'm going after those people for the Carrot Cast to finish out the year. So I'll have a lot better answers for you in a few months too. But here's where I am now is I think I'm more prepared than most, but I feel like I'm 50% prepared right now. And if that's a good indicator for most of you, if you guys haven't been digging in and doing research on how economies change and shift, and what industries and what markets do well when real estate doesn't do well, or what parts of real estate does amazing when flipping or wholesaling doesn't do well, or whatever it is, right? Like, I would really encourage everyone, whatever business you're in right now, research the other side of it. Research and go, when this doesn't do, like, what would make this not do good, first of all? Okay, know and recognize the things that would make whatever activity you're currently doing not work well. And then go, okay, well, when this doesn't work well, what have people in the past done to make that work well? So look at books, articles, talk to mentors, coaches. That's where a coach really comes in, who has been through a full cycle before. So if you guys are listening to this and you've got a good business, invest in a coach, especially one who has been through a full cycle, because they can tell you, well, what you're seeing is kind of similar to what I saw in this time period, and these are some of the moves you should look at. The next thing to look at, outside of that is once you've recognized, well, what would, what things would make it not do well, then I would say, well, what does great when this does not do great? So one of our clients, Brian Rockwell, he's been flipping wholesale in the past 3 years, crushing it in Dallas, 100% online with Carrot. And then he started to add on some cold calling to add that on there, but they killed it because for them, they couldn't make it work great. But then what he did is he said, okay, I know that when the market shifts, I'm going to have to shift a lot on the flipping and wholesaling side. We're going to have to do flips that are less capital intensive. We're going to have to do get an even better deal on those. Wholesaling is always going to be great. Like, wholesaling is always going to be wholesaling for the right people,
Right.
that know multiple exit strategies. If you're looking at everything in your 65%, offer, bucket, you're probably going to be missing out on a ton of deals where someone can come in with a subject to type of strategy or owner finance type of strategy and create deals where you're looking at those saying that those don't work.
Yep.
But there's always something on the other side of the thing that doesn't work, what does work, and understand what that is. But here's a couple things more specific. So going into 2019, housing, I think, obviously is going to be like rental housing, I think, is still going to be great. Okay, rental housing is going to be really, 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 really good. Of course, we do have some unemployment issues right now that are triggered from COVID. We'll see how much of that continues to go. I think we will see a good bit of people come back to work, but I think there's going to be a lot of people that won't go back to work too for many reasons. So that could be an issue in the rental property market. So make sure you're targeting the right people who you want to rent to. Number two, interest rates are going to go up, right? So every time interest rates go up, what happens is it starts to increase the time on market for retail a little bit, because you have a little bit less competition for every different value ladder in housing. Because as soon as the rate goes up 0.25% or 0.5%, all of a sudden that person that could have bought at 300 can now only buy at 275 or 250 or whatever it is. So that's going to happen. I think after all of the stimulus starts to flush its way through the system and people run out of their unemployment and the moratoriums for evictions and foreclosures are out, there's going to be, over the next 2 years, that stuff hitting the market. So how do we make sure that we're keeping an eye on the foreclosures over the next 6 months? Because I think in some states we're going to see a pop, right? You've seen an artificial low in foreclosures the past 2 to 3 months. In some states, it's going to pop up there. And you're going to see some properties that would almost never normally be on the foreclosure rolls the past 5 years are going to start to hit some of those in the next year to two. So get back into looking at foreclosures and foreclosure auctions within the next 12 months, because I think it's going to get very interesting again. The next thing is, once again, on the multifamily side of things, I would continue to look where you can acquire good rental properties for the types of renters you're wanting to serve, but make sure you're not over leveraging yourself too much.
Yeah.
Because as interest rates start to do things, as the economy does weird things, banks, the first thing they do is tighten up. So if you're banking on a refi in 2 years and 5 years and 7 years to get your cash back out and pay that loan back. Ensure that you're putting yourself up for success to get that refi. And it's not oh, well, at today's guidelines, I could totally refi this out. Go look at history or go talk with a banker who's been around for a while, an investor, and say, what would happen if the rates went to X? What would happen if I couldn't do it this way? Have multiple ways to refi out of those multifamily or commercial properties. And one last thing, dude, I could talk about this for hours, but one last thing that I'm looking at anyway, and I was looking at it before COVID, is but now, especially during COVID, I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity for people that do it. Is WeWork, of course, is a complete mess. And so I think you're going to start to see WeWork offices going out everywhere, right? Which is it's going to open up a lot of opportunity for other co-working. Number two, now that COVID hit, so many companies, even that I know here in Roseburg or all over Oregon, are not going back to their offices. Right. Or employees are saying, you know what, I would just rather work at home half-time or full-time. And we're going to have a lot of people working at home now that want a second place to work that doesn't have a coffee grinder going in the background. And especially rural America, because you have all of the crazy unrest that's happening that might be election tide, might not be, I don't know, whatever it is, right? But I think you're going to see a good number of people moving from urban areas to rural areas because now they can work remotely. So we're going to invest even more into co-working spaces, like really, really well done co-working spaces. The building we're in here now, I've had it since 2010. It's 99% all the time full. There's a waiting list. We don't try. And so we're going to be turning the building I bought next door, the downstairs of it now, into an amazing high-end co-working space. And I think that that's going to be a great opportunity all around small and medium-sized cities all over the place.
Amen to that, man. And even in the commercial side, I know I was talking to another investor this morning that just bought 170,000 square feet of commercial retail space at a phenomenal price. Thinks it's like $24 a foot or something wildly cheap. And he's just repurposing what it was. It used to be like retail shops, and now he's turned it into one of them, I think he said, was a nut wholesaler, like the food nut wholesaler. Another one's a part of a medical office, things that still need to be serviced, and they just have to be repurposed. And so looking at things from a different lens. The same thing goes, I think, across all your investing platforms, whether in single family, multifamily, commercial, whatever, looking at things from another lens, right? If you've been only wholesaling properties and flipping properties, and now you have to learn the creative finance side of things, well, that's just you taking off your wholesale hat or fix and flip hat and putting on a different hat, right? Spending your time to learn that. So I think that's huge. What about, how do you think that the online space will migrate with that change? So how do you think business, and since this is a real estate podcast, specifically in real estate, will change because people are going to be working more at home, because there's more opportunities online? The iBuyers have come back into the space, the internet buyers, Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow, even, I think, in some areas. How do you think that's going to migrate? What do you think is going to happen 5 years from now?
Man, Scott, we've been talking about this for years. I think the first time I did this podcast on this topic is like 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, was I called it your credibility score. And this was years before everyone was talking about, hey, get reviews online and all that kind of stuff. I would go to masterminds, and here's Trevor the Carrot guy, and I'm presenting all this data on why your credibility or lack of credibility with your business online. It's before the iBuyers were like really a thing. I'm like, you guys are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year because you're not tightening up your credibility, because business is easy right now. And I think that's going to only amplify. Okay, it's only going to amplify, man. So with the iBuyers coming in, that's one of the things that they're trying to own. Like, they're trying to come in and say, we are the credible source. We're the one with the fancy brand, and we're the one with the big old, the funding from Silicon Valley, and we're the one tied to Keller Williams or to Coldwell Banker. So they're going to try to own the credibility and transparency part of it. And so as investors, that's where investors need to step into creating content and really need to step into building even more authority and credibility than ever. Because as you start to see iBuyers honing in some of their processes, which will their model work in a market that's stagnant or going down? I think we'll see. It won't work as well as it currently does, I think. But I think more than ever, man, investors need to step out from behind the the curtain, so to say, and really go, okay, cool. Yeah, cold calling is working for me, but cold calling is not going to be working forever in my market, or maybe not the way that it is. It's an ebb and flow type of marketing. Any outbound marketing ebbs and flows in its effectiveness, because let's say direct mail is at its height and every seller is getting 20 direct mail postcards in the mail, right? Your response rates are going to go down a bit. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means your response rates are going to go down. Your cost per deal goes way up. And so then what happens is people go, well, how can I reach these same sellers without having to compete against all those? Well, I'm going to call or I'm going to text. And so then while direct mail was up here, really competitive, response rates going down in some markets, that's where cold callers came in. They're like, oh, we can get deals down here and no one's calling these people, right? So that was like 3 or 4 years ago. And now it's like cold calling is up here and you have the direct mail people going back and saying, hey guys, you need to get back into doing direct mail because response rates are back up in some markets. And text messages and stuff like that, same thing, where I know case studies where sellers are getting 2, 3, 4, 5 text messages from investors, sometimes even more, because they're all landing in the same systems that the same gurus are teaching. And so they all work. I always tell people do them because they work, but just recognize where they are in the ebb and flow cycle, and recognize what marketing is not being used as much, the non-sexy marketing that all the gurus aren't talking about. Invest in that. The one that continues to get better is online. It's because it's inbound. It's driven by not me delivering something to them and all my competitors doing the same thing. It's driven by the customer picking up their cell phone, having a problem, typing it into Google and finding you as a solution. And that's only increasing. The older demographics are using cell phones to do Google searches now. They all have Facebook accounts now. And that's going to be the biggie, man, is how do we make sure to get our content and build authority online? So when those sellers or buyers are researching us, or they're comparing us against 3 other investors over here, even if their offer's higher, and an iBuyer, how do you make sure you're showing up as, man, this person looks amazing. They seem credible. They have great testimonials on there. Their testimonials, blasted they shot down my objections. And it seems like they're an expert in what they do. I think that's the big future here.
So, this is by no means a sales pitch, but I think it's important for people to understand. If you're somebody that's out there that's only doing one of the mediums, whether you're only doing direct mail, only cold calling, only text blasting, whatever it might be, and you want to build that authority online, I mean, how can somebody go do that? If I don't know anything about it and I've never been online for whatever reason or whatever, how do I know what to do and what to build and what to put on my site and how to make it so that it makes sense and it's SEO and all the above? How do I do that? What is that?
Dude, I mean, that's what we do at Carrot, right?
Right.
So that's a little intro, but that's what we do at Carrot. And a couple of years ago, I started to really seed in, like, what is Carrot? What is Carrot versus other websites or other systems, other types of marketing? Number one, we call it evergreen marketing, right? So when you put good content online and it's on what we call an authority hub rather than a website, it shouldn't just be a website, it should be a hub for your authority, for your online authority. When you put good content that solves the problems of your prospects or answers their questions and shows your authority, and you put it on your website, that content's going to be around forever, right? If you just put it on a Facebook post or an Instagram post, it's up there for 72 hours, gets pushed down. Then you got to get back on the marketing hamster wheel. You got to post some more. If you want to make cold calling work, you or someone on your team has to continue to be cold calling. If you want to make direct mail work, you have to be sending out direct mail every week. And once again, they all work. I don't say not to do those. They work, and that's where you're going to get your outbound marketing is where you're going to get your volume, okay? Because you're going to activate people who maybe aren't actively seeking out a solution. But you're oftentimes getting your best deals and the most motivated prospects from those that are going and seeking it out online through Google searches. So the first thing you need to do, man, is, set up a website that is not just a website, it's an authority hub. And it's a complete mindset shift. It's not just a spot with a form and an about page and a couple things. It's a spot with those things optimized to perform, but it's also a spot to put your content about the niches that you serve people in. If you're amazing at probate and you just love helping with sellers who are going through probate or they inherited a house, can you imagine if you're a seller, they did a Google search like selling my house in probate in Birmingham, and they landed on your website. They had a short little 3-minute video and an article below it that was just essentially all the words transcribed of that video, so someone could read it if they wanted to. They landed on that, and it was Scott standing there saying, "Hey, this is Scott with Heritage Home Buyers, and I just walked out of Marsha's house, and Marsha inherited a house from her uncle, and it's her and her two brothers that own this house now in 3 different states. And as you can imagine, So talk through the whole situation, right? And then say, I'm going to walk you through the 3 ways that you can sell the house that you inherited here in Birmingham, and So whatever. One of the solutions, of course, is selling to you. So can you imagine if someone saw that and they saw 2 or 3 other short videos that you've done? One of them, the case study with a client that inherited a house, and you help them, or maybe 3 or 4 of them are. One of them is walking through the process of how it works, and they go through and they click through and they see those videos, and then you retarget them back a video on Facebook that's you again. Hey, you're still looking to sell the house you inherited, Or so let's say they land on that site versus there's a normal website with no faces on it, no content, the same type of offer. Put in your information, you'll get a cash offer within 24 hours, and we can close in 7 days, right? The same offer most investors make. Which one are you going to choose? Like, you're going to choose the one that has built authority online with their content. That's the one you're going to choose. So you got to launch a website that performs well, converts well, loads really fast. Google rewards that. You've got to put up content on your website that your prospects are searching for. And I can kind of lay out the high level model if you wanted to, but it's basically this: launch your site, have your core conversion pages on. Your core conversion pages are static, and you're probably not really going to update those more than a couple times a year, maybe. That's your about page. That's your reviews or testimonials page. That's your FAQ page. That's your comparison page and your contact page, right? So those are kind of like your 5 core conversion pages. Those are the things that when people are on your site, they're going to click through and they should see the entire picture of why they should work with you. Yep. Number 2, Scott, after you got your core conversion pages, this is where the content comes in. That over there is for credibility. This is where the content comes in. Is now I want you to write down the cities or neighborhoods or states even that you buy houses in if you're a house buyer. Okay. And then launch what I call a location page for each one of those cities. And that's how Zillow does it, right? When you search homes for sale, insert any city in the country, it's never Zillow's homepage that ranks high. It's always like their very specific niched down page for that city or that neighborhood within the city. And that's why it works so well. So that's what we guide people to do, is set up those location pages and optimize them to rank well in Google. That's what we help with, or you guys can learn how to do it online. And then number 3 is you do that every quarter. Build 5 pages a quarter, right? You've got your core conversion pages, build them out one time, update them a couple times a year as you need. You build 5 to 10 location pages each quarter, going into new cities or new keywords. And then every week, take out your darn cell phone. You're at Marsha's house, who inherited the house, and record a 3 to 8 minute video of how you're serving them and your expertise. Upload that to YouTube, and then make an article out of it. We have features that automate all that. Take your YouTube video, yank the words out, and make a written article for you called Video Post. That's it. Build your core conversion page is going to help you close more of your leads into deals. It's going to help all of your offline marketing work better. When people get that direct mail piece, they're going to Google you. They're going to Google your phone number that's on there. They're going to Google something. Now they're going to find a website that's going to convert them into a lead at a higher rate. Okay. Number 2, you're going to attract more people by putting up those location pages, 5 to 10 a quarter. You're going to be able to find those people who are wanting to sell in your markets. Then number 3, you're going to build authority with your weekly 3 to 8 minute video that you put on YouTube and video post it through Carrot. You do those 3 things, it's going to take you less than 30 minutes a week. You're going to crush it.
See, right there, it's very, very simple. In today's crazy, technical, very seemingly to be difficult technical world that we all live in, it's really not that hard, right? I know. It's probably one of those things that a lot of people think to be a lot harder than it is, and that's why they don't do it. But Trevor just laid it out for you, for all you listeners, to go do it. It's pretty simple. Now, Trevor, I appreciate you sharing kind of your journey of how Carrot has changed in this traumatic time that we're all living through with COVID. Kind of what you're doing, make sure you're staying on top of it and be a leader in the environment, showing people how to lead their teams and just lead to be a better company, better organization. Now you've gone back and you've told the listeners how they can go in and really become an authority online and make sure that, by doing that, you can become that authority. People are going to fall back on you and probably increase your lead volume. That's for sure. Lead volume and lead conversion.
Yep.
Now, how do you think, last question here before we go into our lightning round, how do you think
Cool.
if you were going to be, if you could look back on yourself from 5 years ago, okay, when you first started, how would you change your trajectory of how you went, how you went through this? How would you change that, and why?
Dude, that's a good question. So the trajectory, not specific of COVID, right? Just like the trajectory of the business. Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Kind of a tricky
dude,
question, I know.
no, it's a great question, man. So, the easy kind of cop out answer is I wouldn't change anything. Cause like, I'll give you the real answer, but the easy cop out answer is I wouldn't change anything because I'm here and everything that I did led me to learn and become who I am. But with that said, the thing that I would have done earlier and done 5 years ago is I would have became a lot less emotionally tied to hiring budgets and the profit margin. In my previous businesses, I was always kind of running on the mindset of, well, 33% is like the gold standard, and for profits and all that kind of stuff. And depending on your business model and what your ultimate outcome is, I think you need to be smarter. And I wish I was a lot smarter with hiring way quicker. I know it sounds for a lot of people going, man, you went from 0 employees to 36 in 6 years, which is more than I've ever employed. But now we're realizing it's like, oh shoot, we should have really hired in some key roles way faster and way sooner. And getting good at hiring, getting good at stepping out of the way and asking the question of who, not how. I think that's the big thing, dude, is I was learning a lot on how to do stuff, which is great. But what I needed to be learning more of, which I'm doing now, is not how do I do stuff, but how do you find the people who are the who that will do that stuff.
That's a great answer, man. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I think there's a lot of people that struggle with that out there, right? And I'm one of those people. It's difficult to kind of get out of your own way and try to learn about people and learn about who it is that you need and not what it is that you need, right? And so
it's hard work, dude. Like that's the thing, right? I think it's easy for us to go and learn how to launch a Facebook ad, or if you're not a techie, it's pretty easy for you to learn how to, set up an LLC or do some negotiation or something like that. Will you be the best in the world at it? I don't know. Maybe not. But what's really hard is to go out there and have a vision for something that's clear and that other people can latch onto. And it's hard to then pull back and create a plan, that actually is going to help you get to that and be accountable to the plan. And it's then once you have the plan, it's hard to make sure that you're actually prioritizing your tasks in the right way. So you're doing the important stuff. And then it's hard to then sit down and go, oh shoot, I'm really, really busy with tasks. I don't want to have employees. I'm going to get a bunch of VAs who I delegate tasks to. But the problem is you have more than 6 or 7 reports of even VAs. You can't do your work because everything you delegate bounces back to you for approval or for review. All of a sudden you can't do your work. And so then you're so focused on tasks. You're like, well, shoot, I just need to learn how to do these things. Maybe I'll just put in more hours, right? Maybe that's the answer, is I just put in more hours. So then you learn how to do these things. And then you start staying up until 2 or 3 in the morning to learn to do those things. And then you eventually go, man, I didn't think entrepreneurship was like this. My wife doesn't like it now. She's making good money. I'm doing it for the family, right? I'm doing it for the family and we're making good money, but I'm not spending time with them. I'm staying up late. I'm working 60 hours a week. And I want to change. And then what happens, dude, is people then change their business. Okay. Then they go, I'm just burnt out in this business. And then they get shiny object syndrome.
Yep.
And then they go try this other business. And the reason I'm telling you this story is this. I've been through it, number one. But number two is that point where people start to get shiny object syndrome around 2 to 5 years with that exact path I just took you through. And if anyone relates to that path I just took you through, it's normal. But there's 2 ways you can go. One way is your normal business, your main business that's making you your income right now, that you're working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week to do, and you're grinding yourself, and you've tried some people and they haven't worked or whatever. That business is going to likely either start to trickle down and fizzle away if you take your focus off of it to something else, unless you plug someone else in to run that business amazingly well, which most people won't. They're just going to go, well, I can take on this other side business too because I'm really passionate about this. And then their main business starts to go like this. So what you have to do is you have to pull back and say, okay, Either I'm going to get rid of this main business, I'm going to go all into something else, or you pull back and say, okay, I'm going to intentionally, with just ruthlessness, create systems and processes and recognize where my energy goes. Is my energy going into stuff that drains my energy or gives me energy? And then every quarter, using the energy audit, you guys can find it at carrot.com/energy. Is free. You don't have to opt in or nothing, but use the energy audit. And every single quarter, that's your number one priority, is how do I get stuff off of my lap that doesn't give me energy? And how do I then create a process for someone else to do that? You do that, dude, now you can start to build your primary business if you're getting burnt out on it, to where you're not going to get burnt out on it anymore, because you have people, you have process, you have systems, you can do the things that give you the energy the most. Or if you did want to go and do something else, now you have processes and people to run your primary business, and then you go do something else also. And so that one period, dude, 2 to 4 years in, so many people, they take the exact path, and then they end up going like this, and then they crash, and then start a new business, and it's this perpetual cycle.
Dude, I appreciate you sharing that. I think a lot of listeners had to hear that. And it is an entrepreneurial battle, right? It's something that we all have to deal with, and it's something that's kind of ongoing until you kind of overcome that, right? And so, thank you for sharing that. So once again, a lot of tips you brought us today, Trevor. A lot, update on where the business is going, update on how to stay as an authority in the space, how to make sure that you're an authority online, and now how to hire and make sure that you can have a business that thrives for a long time and not just a short time. I appreciate you sharing that. Let's jump into a lightning round. Are you ready for that?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Okay, so first question is, how does your mindset have to change to become that leader that will keep your business thriving well into the future?
Dude, you've got to kind of go back to vision. You got a vision. If you don't have vision and have a good example of who you need to become to grow that business, then you're not going to get there. So that's the answer, is have a vision, not just for the business, but who the person that you want to become, that you need to become to grow that company.
Amen to that, man. Thanks for sharing. What are you reading currently? You mentioned a couple books, but I'm always interested. What are you latched onto at the moment?
Dude, the one I'm finishing up right now is called The $1 Trillion Coach. It's about a guy named Bill Campbell. It sounds like you got it back there. I love that book, man. Yeah, I'm finishing that one up now, and I've been loving that thing.
I know, I got it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good book for anyone that's wanting to number one, like, it's an interesting read because you get an insight into these huge companies, Apple, Google, that this one coach was tied to them, but there's so many good leadership lessons in there. And then the next thing, dude, is I'm wanting to really dive back into marketing a lot more and just studying marketing. And so I've started to kind of compile some books I'm going to dig back into on the marketing side too.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Kind of goes with the books, but what are you trying to learn currently? What are you trying to become better at?
Dude, the thing that I'm trying to learn right now, of course, leadership is always going to be on there, but I'm gonna give another topic. The thing I'm trying to learn right now is how to build a business that, the number itself doesn't matter here, but the mindset that I would have to reach this is what matters. Is I'm really studying how do you build a business that's $100 million business, because we're around 10 right now, which is amazing. It's like if you had asked me 10 years ago, way before Carrot started, if I could ever grow a company that was doing $10 million a year, my answer would at that time would have felt like $100 million does today. Like literally, it's like, oh my gosh, never. You're never gonna get there. That was the huge mountain. So now it's kind of the huge mountain for me is that 100 million. It's like, geez, I would have to be a different person. This company's have to be a different company. The way we do our product have to be completely different. The people around me would have to up level or change. My role would have to change. All those kinds of things. So that's what I'm studying, dude, is what does a company look, what does a CEO do at a company that's 50 to 100 million a year?
I really appreciate you sharing that part, and also noting the fact that it's not about the money. You made that asterisk right at the beginning. It's not about the money, but it does take a certain, in order to be $100 million company, it takes a certain, it is kind of about the money, because it's like a step up. You 10x what you're doing now to get to 100 million. You have to 10x the person you are, 10x the team you have around you, 10x everything to get there. So I think that's huge. Thanks for sharing that. What is your superpower that you have? How do you change the world with your
Hmm.
superpower, I should say?
Dude, for me, same thing. It's like this evolves. So if when I would get that question asked 7 or 8 years ago, man, I didn't know what it was. I couldn't give people a good answer. And so today now, I think if I had to pick one, like my superpower is to cast a vision and get people excited about where we're going. It's something I enjoy doing. It's something that has been a really core part of Carrot. And so yeah, casting a vision, getting people excited about where we're going. The execution of it is not my superpower. Like that's other people's superpower. But casting that vision, getting excited about it is.
Thank you for sharing that. And you know what? I think that's, you're very much sounds like the visionary part of of your business, right? And so you have an implementer. I don't know who that is, but somebody in your organization that helps you to achieve the vision that you're, looking to put on. That could be a whole nother episode, because I think for a lot of
Dude.
people, that duality has to be there. And if you're missing one of the parts, growing a business can be very hard. So,
Big time.
anyways,
Big time.
how do you like to give back? What do you do now to give back in general?
The thing that I love the most, I mean, we do have our Carrot Impact Fund that we started we started last year actually. And the Carrot Impact Fund kind of took our official like donation giving, cash giving, and we wrapped it into a fund. We funded it for a lot of years ahead of time, and I'm really passionate about the impact we do make with that. An example, there's a local group here called the Umpqua Valley Bicycle Outreach, where they're working with some of the most disadvantaged youth in the entire area. I'm like the worst of the worst situations you can picture. And my friend Yaku, who runs it, he loves bikes. He's a bike mechanic. He's worked in bike shops his whole life. And he used that as his ministry to go in and say, can I use bicycles and working on bikes and building bikes with these kids as a way to build bonds with them, as a way to give them a skill set that they can really use? Not the building, not the bike part, like bike repair. Yeah, that'd be cool to know how to repair your own bike. But the actual responsibility part of it, being responsible, showing up on time, and learning things, being open to things. And so we had a chance with our impact fund over the last couple of years to buy them a new van so they could go on trips together. We bought them a bunch of mountain bikes for their mountain bike racing team, where these kids literally, a lot of them have never been a part of teams. They are disadvantaged financially, and now they're able to go out there and race mountain bikes and be a part of a team. And so that's one example, man, that I'm just really passionate about. How do we take our core values at Carrot and amplify them in organizations where they're way better at getting those things into the hands of people who can use them than we are?
That's huge, man. That is absolutely massive. The impact you're having there sounds remarkable, and I'm glad that you're taking part in that. Where can the listeners find you? If they want to learn more about you, if they want to learn more about Carrot, if they want to get part of your impact fund, if they want to get involved, how can they reach you? Where can they find you?
Dude, yeah, easiest thing is carrot.com. Check it out. We do have a page set up, carrot.com/Trevor. So TREVOR, carrot.com/Trevor, where I always get after this Instagram messages and stuff like that of people saying, hey, that energy audit you mentioned, or your habit tracker or whatever. We just put them all on one page, and a link to my podcast is there, the Carrot Cast, where half of the Carrot Cast are me literally driving in my truck, talking about kind of what's going on in my mind and my business behind the scenes. The other half are interviews just like this. So you guys can find the Carrot Cast on Apple Podcasts. But everything is in one spot. Go to carrot.com/Trevor, and follow me on Instagram over there as well.
Sounds great, man. Well, for all you listeners, as you know, you can check in the show notes when you pull over. If you're listening while you're driving, please do not look at it right now. Just wait until you pull over. It'll be in the show notes, and all the contact information to get in touch with Trevor, to get in touch with Carrot, etc., will be there. And once again, man, I appreciate you being here. We went over a lot of really good content for the listeners out there. Something that I think is important right now.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. And guys and gals, make sure you're plugging into smart people like Scott. Make sure you're plugging into learning more, mentoring, get a coach or get an unofficial coach or mentor in this podcast. Because we're all going to need coaches. We're all going to need growing through this next season. And here's what I'll leave people with is there's two reactions people can have about what we talked about, for what I'm kind of thinking is going to happen in the next couple of years. One reaction is, oh my gosh, maybe I didn't get into this real estate thing at the right time. Maybe I should try something else. The other action is, oh my gosh, look at this amazing opportunity to serve more and to build an amazing business when a lot of people are going to run the other way. And I think it's going to really define you in this moment. Are you going to be running away from something because it looks like it's going to be harder? Or are you going to be running towards solving those problems for people and open up more opportunity than you've ever seen? Guys, there's going to be more opportunity this next 2 to 3 years than I think many people have had the last 5 years, if you're open to it and if you're open to wading through the hard parts of it. It won't be as easy, but man, it's going to be amazing.
Amen to that, man. Thank you for sharing that at the very end. And for all you listeners out there, thanks again for being here. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share it to everybody you know so you can listen to everything Trevor and I just talked about. And make sure to check back next week. So we're going to have more episodes to keep your business thriving. Thanks again, Trevor. We'll talk to you real soon, man.
Appreciate it, Scott. Thanks, guys.